Hey there, it's Kevin Kennedy, and welcome to day number 17 of Learn Fusion 360 in 30 days. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a solid understanding of how to use dimensions and constraints to fully constrain your sketches. You'll learn a few dimension tricks, and I'll explain and demo why it's important to fully constrain your sketches. Let me start off by stating that Fusion 360 does not require sketches to be fully constrained, but it's a good practice to always fully constrain your sketches, which we'll cover in just a minute. But first, it's important to note that the way you define or constrain your sketches will differ per each design. This is why it's important that you come up with a strategy for how your sketch entities relate to one another at the beginning of each model. Now, this strategy is often referred to as the sketch's design intent. Personally, I recommend sketching out your design on pencil and paper before you start sketching anything out in Fusion 360. Doing so will help you think about how the sketch should be constrained before you even get too caught up in the computer. Now for this demo, I want to draw this square washer plate, which is essentially a square with a hole cut out of the middle. While looking at this sketch, I can ask myself, what do I know about this object without knowing any of the dimensions? I see that all four sides appear to be equal. I see that the lines are perpendicular at the corners, and the lines opposite of each other appear to be parallel. And it appears that the center of this circle is located directly in the middle of the washer plate. So let's start off by creating a new component from the Assemble drop-down list, and I'll title it Square Washer and click OK. Now let's create a sketch for this washer plate so we can walk through the steps of constraining and dimensioning it. I'll hit the keyboard shortcut letter R for rectangle, and I'll select the top plane. Now before we click on anything, if you look in the sketch palette, you'll see that we can switch from a 2-point rectangle to a 3-point rectangle or a center rectangle. For this washer plate, we'll want to use the center rectangle because the center rectangle will already have a nice center point for us to reference for the circle cut out. This is why, as you continue to learn Fusion 360, it's important that you understand what all of the sketch tools do. The more you know, you'll become more efficient, and it will help you eliminate unnecessary steps. So I'll select the center rectangle icon, and I'm just going to click away from the origin, out in space here, and I'll drag out with my mouse and click at a random distance. And just so you can see the difference, I'm going to select a 2-point rectangle and draw that out right next to our center rectangle. And I'll hit the escape key to clear all commands. Now let's look at both of these rectangles. So you'll notice a few things here. As I mentioned in day number 16, you'll see that Fusion 360 will automatically apply some constraints when using these predefined sketch entities. Now, using the 2-point rectangle tool applied vertical/horizontal constraints to all four lines. Now, here's a little tip for you. If a constraint is automatically applied and you can't seem to remember what it stands for, then simply click on the glyph or icon, and you'll see in the lower right-hand corner it states the type of constraint. You'll see this one says horizontal, and if I click on this one for the right line, it states that it's a vertical constraint. Now looking at the center rectangle we created, you'll see that it automatically created some different constraints for us. It created some parallel constraints, a coincident constraint where the lines meet in the middle, and a perpendicular constraint in the corner. Now that you see the difference here, I'm going to delete the 2-point rectangle by selecting over the entire object, and then I'll hit the delete key on my keyboard. As we go a bit further, you'll understand why we ended up going with the center rectangle. Now we'll want to fully constrain or define the center rectangle before we go ahead and turn it into a three-dimensional object. That way we have 100% control of the sketch if we go to update the size of the sketch or change anything with the square washer plate. So in this current state, you'll notice that the lines of the rectangle are blue, which means that they're not fully constrained, and we can still move them around. Now, if I click and drag on these lines, you'll see that I can move them up and down, side to side, or I can drag points and change the overall size of the rectangle. So our goal here is to figure out how to turn all of these lines from blue to black, because black sketch entities signify that they are fully constrained and they can't be moved unless we update the dimension or the constraint that is driving the sketch. Again, doing this will give us full control of the sketch, so if we update the size, we can keep the shape that we originally intended. Now, the rule of thumb is to always use constraints first and then dimension your sketches second. And there are a few different reasons for this. First, the fewer amount of dimensions we have, the easier it will be to update the size of our model should we need to. Second, the fewer dimensions we use, the fewer amount of problems we'll likely run into, such as accidentally over-defining our sketch, which means that the dimension cannot be altered because it's already driven by other dimensions and/or sketch constraints. So if we look back at our original sketch notes, we'll see that it appears that all four sides are equal. Therefore, using the equal sketch constraint, we can force all four lines of our rectangle to always be equal. So holding down the Shift key, I'm going to select the left line and the top line of the square. And I'm going to click on the equal constraint in the sketch palette. Now, the reason I only applied the equal constraint to the left and top line is because they already have parallel constraints. If I reactivate the equal constraint and select the other two lines, you'll see that it won't let us add the equal constraint to all four lines because it would over-constrain the geometry, making those constraints unnecessary. Now you'll notice that the lines of our rectangle still aren't fully constrained because they're still blue. So if you're ever wondering why they aren't fully constrained, you can simply click on any lines or points and drag them around. If I click and hold on the center point of the rectangle, you'll see that I can drag it around. Now we can use the coincident constraint to snap the center of the rectangle to the center origin. I'll activate the coincident constraint, click on the center origin, and then I'll click on the middle of the rectangle. And you'll notice the rectangle will snap to the center origin. Now you should also notice that the center construction lines and the center point of the rectangle are now black or fully constrained. So if I click and drag at the center point, I can no longer move this rectangle around. But we can still change the size of the rectangle by dragging the blue lines which aren't fully defined yet. Now, one thing to note, I normally would have started the center rectangle sketch off the origin point, but for this demo, I wanted to show you what happens when you don't. With that said, I would always recommend starting your first sketch of each file at the center origin, unless you have a good reason not to. Now let's go ahead and fully constrain the lines that are still blue. To do this, we'll have to add a dimension to one of the sides. So I'll hit letter D on the keyboard for dimension, and if I click on the top line, drag up with my mouse, and type in 100 millimeters, and click enter, you'll see that now our sketch is 100% black or fully constrained. And I can't change the size or move any of these lines by dragging them around. Now the only way I can change the size is by changing this one dimension that we just added. Now let's go ahead and add our circle cutout in the middle. I'll activate the center circle sketch tool with the keyboard shortcut letter C. I'll click on the center origin point, type in 50 millimeters for the dimension, and I'll click with my mouse again to snap the circle into place. Now you'll see that our circle is also represented as fully constrained with black lines because the dimension we added and the fact that we drew it on the center point, which automatically added a coincident constraint. Now to delete a constraint that is automatically applied, all you have to do is click on it and hit the delete key. If I click on the middle of the circle, you'll see that there are 4 different coincident constraints. And if I hover over the glyph of each one, you'll be able to see what it relates to. I'll select the second constraint and then I'll hit the delete key. And now you'll see that the circle is blue because I can move it around. So I'll go ahead and reapply a coincident constraint by activating coincident in this sketch palette. I'll click on the center origin. Now let's go ahead and extrude our square washer up by hitting the keyboard shortcut letter E for extrude. I'll select the sketch and type in 5 millimeters for the thickness and click OK. At this point, I want to show you a few dimension tips. I'll double click on the sketch in the timeline to reopen it. And if I hover over the dimensions, you'll notice that it gives the dimension number. So we have D1:100 millimeters, where the number 1 represents the dimension number. So if we hover over the circle dimension, you'll see that the dimension number is number 2, and these numbers are created based on the order in which you dimension entities. Now, one cool thing about dimensions is that we can use functions in the dimension field to make them a bit more robust. So if I knew that I always wanted this inner circle cut out to be half the size of my overall square, I could apply a function to always be half of the square's dimension. To do this, I'll click on the circle dimension, and I'll type out D1 to reference the first dimension, or the dimension of the outer rectangle. I'll type a / to represent that I want to divide, and then I'll type out number 2 because I want it to always be cut in half, or half of the rectangle. Now if I click enter, you'll see it says fx for function, and it shows the diameter of 50 millimeters. Now if I were to update the original dimension to 150 millimeters, you'll see that the circle dimension updates as well, so now it's automatically been changed to 75 millimeters. So once again, this is why it's super important to think through your designs before you start sketching anything out on the computer. I'll also point out that you have to use functions like this with caution. You don't necessarily want to reference dimensions all the time, especially in larger models or sketches, as it can get quite hard to remember what each function or dimension actually represents. Now to summarize what we did here, we added constraints first, so we only had to add 2 dimensions to fully define and constrain our sketch, which allows us to easily go back and simply change 1 dimension if we decided our square washer needs to be smaller or larger. If we take a look at this other file, I've gone ahead and created the same washer, but I didn't follow these best practices. And you'll notice if I double click to open up the sketch is not fully constrained or defined. Now if I go to update the dimension, you'll see that it totally throws off the whole entire shape, and I'd have to also manually update the other dimensions here. Now it may not seem like that big of a deal because this square washer is a fairly simple object. But as you can imagine, as you start to 3D model more complex objects, especially ones that contain multiple sketches, it can really suck up a lot of time and cause a lot of problems if you don't plan ahead and fully constrain your sketches based on your original design intent. Now the last thing here, be sure to check out the comment section below where I'm going to post 3 helpful tips that you should always follow when working with sketches. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions at all about this tutorial or Fusion 360 questions in general, then be sure to comment them below. Hit that thumbs up icon if you learned something in this video, and click subscribe, followed by that little bell icon to be notified of more Fusion 360 tutorials.